Torah 70 and Likutei Moharan, and we've learned this amazing idea that the tzaddik is like the Kador Haaretz, like the earth itself. The earth has gravity, it pulls everything to it. The tzaddik has gravity, he pulls holiness to him, including the people, obviously. And when we have the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the desert, is also pulls the people to him, to it, I should say. And this Mishkan is built by Moses because he's the most humble person, and the most humble person has the most power to grasp. Now, the one way to think of this is a vacuum. The tzaddik's heart is empty of his own ego, so that creates a vacuum to pull people closer to the tzaddik. And Moshe Rabbeinu, of course, had that in a complete way. The whole nation followed him out of Egypt. Can you imagine? It's hard enough to get your kids in the car to go shopping. You know? Imagine trying to get 3.2 million people out of Egypt across the desert in the no man's land and come to a place they've never been. So, he had this magnetism that was, we called it so far in the last two classes, the spiritual gravity. But it also can be likened to the soul of the tzaddik. In his heart, he's like empty. It's like a vacuum that pulls everything into it. And now we're going to see the next level. What is all the purpose of all of that? Well, the Rebbe Nachman says, the last paragraph, Vayehi bayom hashmini kara Moshe la'aron levanav ziknei Yisrael. Right? And it's all about these days that we're in now. In the beginning of the month of Nisan. The month of Nisan is the days of the Miluim, where each of the heads of the tribes would bring a korban to the Mishkan in the desert. And each one was a sanctification of each tribe. And so that was in the beginning of Nisan. And here we are in the beginning of Nisan. So you see that we're learning on this book on Seder day by day. And it's corresponding to a calendar that's, 3,300 years old. And it's the same days of the year, the same patterns of time are really a cyclical process that we're going through over and over, year after year. The Jewish calendar is a reflection of all the years of Jewish events. And so on the 8th day, right, Moses called to Aaron and his sons and to the elders of the people. Now this call is very important. It's not simply he's calling to a few family members and a few, elders that he knows. But rather, ki kishat tzaddik tzarich lekot lerashei ha'am. When the righteous needs to call to the leaders of the people. Imagine you're sitting in a little farm in the middle of Ukraine 300 years ago. There was no iPhone, there was no phone, there was no... Letters were something that you might get every couple of months. And the leader needs to call out to the people. How do you call out to the people? Usually they would send people. Right? And that's a big deal also. That's not so simple. And it's dangerous. But here Moshe, when you call on the level of the tzaddik, it's a psychic call. It's an internal call. Because if you're part of the inner circle of the tzaddikim, then you're connecting on a psychic level. Like they say, Baba Sali and the Lubavitcher Rebbe learned Torah together, but Baba Sali had never been to New York, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe had never been to Morocco or to Netivot. And so there is this inner world of communication on a psychic level. A lot of people don't want to believe in it. That's fine. Go read about the Aborigines. They live out in the desert and they have it. And they don't have the Torah. And they're not communicating things like the same level as Moshe and Aaron. Let's kind of leave that there. V'hu koreh otam bezeh shehu mekim et Mishkan. So, how does he call them over there? By establishing the Mishkan is the call. Building the structure calls the people. Why do you go when you go to a community? You want to start a community. The first thing you do is, you don't worry about your house. You build a big Knesset that calls the people out of their sleep, out of their dormancy, out of their dreams. And they calls you to the Beit Knesset, and that's why we're all here this morning, because the Beit Knesset calls us. Because I know that I can sit in my room and learn all day and all night, and sometimes I do. But sometimes I just get the call. I need to be here with the Hachamim, with the wise people, with the learned people, because they're going to give us things that we don't even know that we need them. And they come on a silver platter of Torah. And he called, by building the Mishkan, Moshe was calling to the people. Shesham hakavod. Lama, because hakavod Hashem ala Mishkan. So, it's not just you're calling to a building, you're calling to the glory that's invested in the building. That the tzaddik has the power because of his humility. And through the building of the Mishkan, he calls them because everyone's looking to receive their own glory. Now, wait a minute, let's rethink that. Am I going to this big Knesset to see the Talmid Hacham or the righteous or the tzaddik? Or in their day, Moshe Rabbeinu, am I going for my own glory? See, look what I did. I went to the tzaddik. I don't think people really are that childish about glory. Some people might, they go home and brag to their wife, I went to the rabbi and he brought me into his office, and etc. That's a certain amount of kavod, right? And it's important for our wives to see that we're doing things that are honorable and that are important, like going to get proper advice, proper insight from a righteous person. However, the glory that they're trying to receive is really a piece of the humility of Moshe Rabbeinu. That when we leave that room of the righteous, that we should feel, maybe I don't know what I think I know. Maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. Maybe I have a little more work ahead of me. Maybe this person is showing me a path that I didn't even know existed. And all the details. And this is B'yom HaShmini, on the 8th day, She'ekim Moshe et HaMishkan. Like these days of the years, the 8th day of this cycle that we're in, today is Rosh Chodesh Nisan, 7 more days, we're on the 8th day. And on that day, right, which 8 is an important number because 8 represents the upper realm, above the 7 days of this weekly cycle that we live in every week. There's the 8th day. The 8th day is above time, above space. And through this is how Moshe calls. He builds the Mishkan, and everybody comes to get the glory of Hashem through the place, through the time, through the building. But the glory you get is not the buzz. I have to reiterate that. It's the humility that brings the glory on you. So we're going for the glory, but it's really, we're going for the anava of the tzaddik that spreads out, and that actually gives us the ability, the vessel to receive from the righteous. Shehem klal roshei ha'am, and these elders are the general leaders of the people. Mikaton v'ad gadol, from the small ones to the great ones. Ki ayedei akamat mishkan, because by building this mishkan, kara et kol roshei ha'am, Moshe is calling all the leaders, not just his little circle. Shehem b'chinat Aharon uvanav l'ziknei Israel, and they are the inner circle, but he's not calling just to them. V'zeh shamru chazal, Shenisan Rosh Hashanah LaMalachim. And now we're dealing with this very today. Today is Rosh Hashanah LaMalachim. It's the beginning of the calendar. It's the day that every king was anointed. It's the beginning of the Jewish year, not the creation year. Because creation year applies to the entire planet, and the Jewish year applies to when the Jewish people became a nation. When they came out of Israel, they came out of Egypt and became Israel. And when they got to the land, and just outside the land, of course, they already were building and traveling with the Mishkan. Ki az haya hakamat Mishkan. During these days, the Mishkan was completed. Shemisham nimshach hakavod el hamelachim, because that's where the honor of the kings comes from. The honor of the king doesn't come because he has the most money or the nicest palace. The honor of the king comes because he is a representative in the human realm of the Mishkan, in the realm of the physical items of this world. That's why the Mishkan is built from the skins of animals and the trees of the forest and the rocks that they cut out of the mountain. It's not something they made in a factory. It's built of earth-bound items. And so it's not just the Rosh Hashanah, the New Year for kings, for the mayor, for the commissioner of police, for the head of the Knesset, for the head of the Senate. All levels are receiving the renewal of their authority. And whether you're Jew or not Jew, or you're religious or not religious. Authority is authority. It's power. It's influence. And it has to be taken very serious, this thing. And I'm going to tell a short story to end this Torah, and it's very important to wait for this story. That's why the Mishkan was completed this time in Rosh Chodesh because of the new year of kings and appointment to power. He az bechinat Rosh Chodesh, and that's Rosh Chodesh also. The new Chodesh, the new mind, the new Zman, the new time. Shal yedei zeh nit chadashim kol roshim. All the leaders are renewed. V'zeh bechinat Rosh Chodesh Nisan Rosh Hashanah lamelachim. The Rebbe repeats the idea that we just said, that this is the time when the renewal of the power begins. Now, right now, there's a huge hafganah in Jerusalem. And right now, Jews are really arguing and fighting with Jews verbally. I hope not with their hands and sticks and whatever else. And there's a lack of peace because of various factors that you might all I've heard about, about the interpretation of the laws and the powers of the Supreme Court in this country that many people have felt have been out of balance, and they're trying to bring them into balance, and other people disagree with that opinion. Regardless of the details of that case, there are Jews arguing and fighting as we speak. On the streets of Jerusalem, they closed off all the streets. It took us a long time to get here. Reb Shlomo Carlebach said 30 years ago, maybe 35 years ago, that God created Am Yisrael with religious and non-religious people for each group to support the other. Each group is here to support the other. Now, can you imagine the religious supporting the non-religious and the non-religious supporting the religious? Wouldn't that be a different world? Wouldn't that be a different country? Wouldn't that be a unified nation? So that's very important. And right now we need that unity more than ever. And, I asked my wife, I said, honey, what about when they do things against each other? They sabotage each other. And I said, it's like our kids. This kid wants this one's toy, so this one bites this one, and this one takes his toy back, and this one and they're fighting like children. Now, of course, you say, well, they're not fighting over toys, Avraham. They're fighting about the laws of the Supreme Court. It's true. But we're a family. We're a people. And what do you do when your kids fight? You try to separate them. You try to get them to calm down. You try to find the middle ground of truth, because the truth is always in the middle amongst all the parties concerned. So we should all be blessed with peace in ourselves, in our hearts, peace in our families, peace in our relationships, peace with our neighbors, peace with our cities, peace with our nations, peace with our King in heaven, because that's where it all begins. So God bless you all. Have a great day. We'll see you again tonight on Web Yeshiva at 9 o'clock Israel time. We're going to do a thing I'm calling the exponential Pesach. I'll get it right. Purim, Pesach, exponential, existential. I think they're all connected in there. Maybe we'll talk about that too. But the exponential Pesach, we're going to look at the idea of how Pesach is not just a day, and it's not just a moment in time that we celebrate. So look for us on webyeshiva.org, 9 o'clock, and we'll be on all the other platforms. We'll be doing a little Zohar tomorrow, Erev Shabbat, hopefully connected to Shabbat, and then we have Saturday Night Zohar after that. So, things are happening, and it's a Chodesh Tov to all of you. And whatever level you are, religious, non-religious, we have to support each other. And that's the secret of the unity of God in the human race. When the people get it together, God is happy. All the best. Thank you. Okay.